fight them back. Fascists on the attack, then we will counter attack. Fascists on the attack, then we drive them back. Gonna smash their brains in, 'cause they ain't got nothing in them. We're gonna smash their brains in, 'cause they ain't got nothing in them.
GMS Walk and Talk. I have a little information here. This is from a website that I found, and you'll see it. This is dealing with your name. Whenever you receive a document from a so-called white man, example, parking ticket, car note, court summons. The main one is a court summons. Because what group of people are mainly dealing with the so-called white man's court system? The tribes. If it ain't, what is it called, child support, it's for some petty BS. Well, usually when you get that document, whatever it is, court summons, parking ticket, you'll notice your name is all in capital letters. Do you know what that means? That means that you are basically a slave to the elites. And I have the evidence here to prove it, some information. And you know, GMS Walk and Talk, we're all about giving you the information. It says, this is the Latin term, and I'll do my best to pronounce it. CAPITIS Diminutio Maxima. What does that mean? Name in all capitals. For purposes of understanding one's legal or commercial status under the Admiralty system, which is the system we're under right now, Admiralty law, which is basically law of the high seas. We're not under the laws of the statutes and commandments of the Bible. That's another proof that proves the so-called white man's the devil, because he says in God we trust, but yet he's under a Roman system of law called Admiralty law. It says, the law system in England, Canada, and much of the US, it is necessary to examine the curious use of caps, or the curious use of all caps, Capitis Diminutio Maxima, in legal and domestic income tax forms, credit cards and statements, loans, mortgages, speeding and parking tickets, car documents, road tax, court summons. While seemingly a trite concern, this apparently small detail has extremely deep significance for all of us. What is that deep significance? That you tribes are slaves, all right? That's the significance. When you get a document from the government with your name in all capital letters, it means that you're a slave. So if you're living in America thinking that you're free, you're not. I just gave you evidence that you're not. That's why we're waiting for Yahweh Shai, which the world calls Jesus Christ, to come and liberate us, because we are slaves. That's the bottom line. We are slaves. And here's the proof. Some information. Gage Canadian Dictionary, 1983, Section 4, defines capitalize as to take. Now this is from Gage Canadian Dictionary, 1983, Section 4. That's the year, 1983. Section 4 says, capitalize, to take advantage, to use to one's own advantage. So according to this law dictionary, Gage Canadian Dictionary, they're telling you that when you see a name that's all in caps, that is to take advantage of you. It's right here. Black's Law Dictionary, which is a cameraman and myself, especially Elder Tal, we're familiar, the brothers in Connecticut, which is the core of GMS, we're familiar with the Black's Law Dictionary. Back about, 10 years ago, we were heavy into the law, the so-called white man's law. And a lot of the terms or definitions, we'd have to look it up in the Black's Law Dictionary. So let's find out how the Black's Law Dictionary defines the term Capitis Diminutio Maxima. It says, revised 4th edition, 1968, provides a more comprehensive definition as follows. Capitis diminutio, meaning the diminishing of status through the use of capitalization. In Roman law, and there's a term called lex romana, which basically in Latin means Roman law. In Roman law, a diminishing or abridgment, another word for abridgment is shortening, or abridgment of personality, a loss of curtailment as a man's status or aggregate of legal attributes and qualifications. So basically, under Capitis Diminutio, these elites have stolen our rights to be Hebrew Israelites, our rights to have property, our rights to have slaves. These are all our birthrights. And you got a lot of our people that don't want that. That's why the Lord said 2/3 of our people got to be put to death, because you're a perpetual slave. And you don't want to wake up to the truth. Let me read something to you. A quote that I think is very important. This is what, now this quote is attributed to Thomas Jefferson, but you know, whether he said it or not, I think it's very important. It says this: if a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. So you might be listening to this lesson, you might say, well, what has this got to do with me? It has a lot to do with you. Since under Roman law, your name is all in capital letters and you're a slave to the elites, they can do whatever the hell they want with you. That's the bottom line. That's the reality. And what is it that they want to do with you? Well, pursuant to the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, the 16th verse, they want to put a goddamn chip inside of you. That's what they want to do. That's the end game for these elites. And I'm just showing you here in this document that you are a slave. And according to what Jefferson said, whether he said it or not, doesn't matter. The point is, it's a good quote. He said, if you expect to be ignorant and free, you expect something that never was, never will be. And that's the attitude of the majority of you tribes. You have that apathetic attitude. You don't give a shit. You don't care. But then at the same time, you expect to be free. Very soon they're going to come and get your ass, because they're telling you here that you're a slave. Now I'm going to read some scriptures. Remember that term, Capitis Diminutio Maxima. What does that mean? That's a Latin term meaning your name is all in capital letters. What does that mean? That means that you are a slave. All right? Now let's go to the scriptures. Let's see what the Lord has to say about it. The Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, which that's his name and his son's name in ancient Hebrew. Isaiah 1 and 3. Isaiah 1 and 3 says this. It says, the ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider. Now the ox and the ass are two dumb animals, but at least they know their owner. As you read on, it says, but Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider. What do the real Israelites don't know? They don't know that they are the Israelites. And with documents like this, with Latin terms like this, they're making sure that you don't know or that you don't find out. your name and all in capital letters, you're a slave. It says, my people doth not consider. Now, you know when you're going to consider that you're a Hebrew Israelite? When you find out that that's the only means of salvation, that you find out that you're a Hebrew Israelite. You can't get salvation unless you find out first that you're an Israelite. It starts there. That's what it means to be born again. The term born again means to come back to your nationality, who you are. I'm showing you that the elites are looking at you as chattel, as property. That's why they give you a name. They give you a name because you're supposed to have a Hebrew Israelite name, you tribes. But they give you a name, then they give you that name all in caps. Compounding it, man, showing you, look, you're a slave, you're nothing. You're chattel, you're property. Let me see if I find it. Let me read this part to you. Capitis Diminutio Maxima, meaning a maximum loss of status through the use of capitalization. I'll give you an example, John Doe or Joe or Doe John, and you'll see it's all in caps here. The highest or most comprehensive loss of status. What is the greatest status that we have as a nation? That we are Hebrew Israelites. And you know, with that comes a lot of goodies. You want to read about it? Read the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, from the 1st verse to the 15th verse. You will see just how much status that you have lost. All right? It says this occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage. So right here they're telling you your name and all in caps, you've been changed from a position of freedom to a position of bondage. You're a slave. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage. When he became a slave, it swept away with it all rights of citizenship, and all family rights. Now, like I said, if you want to read about your rights as a Hebrew Israelite, all you have to do is read Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, from the 1st verse to the 15th verse. And then they mention here about the birth certificate. Now, in the hospital, that's where it starts, really. That's the journey. Every journey has a beginning, right? Well, that's where the beginning of you becoming a slave starts. In the hospital, when your mother signs that birth certificate. Which that birth certificate is really, in reality, a warehouse receipt. It says, over here it says, the initial joinder is formed when a legal birth certificate, which is not legal, not according to the Bible. Show me in the Bible where Adam had a birth certificate. Show me in the Bible where the one you call Jesus Christ, which his name is Yahushua, had a birth certificate. Or King David. It's not in there. Because it's a document Esau made up to drive home the point that you're a slave. And that's going back to Isaiah 1 and 3. It says, my people doth not consider. You don't even consider, maybe up until now, if you're really watching this with understanding, you haven't really considered what the birth certificate really means. That it's a document that you're a slave. That's why the Lord said it's high time for you to wake up out of sleep. Romans 13 and 11. All right, so when the woman, our mother, signed the birth certificate in the hospital, there's a scripture which illustrates that. And it's found in Ecclesiasticus 25 and 24. Let me read it to you. Ecclesiasticus 25 and 24. Oops. Give me a moment here. Okay, here we go. It says, of the woman came the beginning of sin, and through her we all die. So now, that part of death starts where? In the hospital, when she signs the birth certificate. Now on the birth certificate, you'll notice the name is all in caps. That's a sign of you are dead, legally. If you go to any graveyard, when you look at the name, right, on the tombstone,